Rich woman leaves everything to poor teacher, but what she finds in will shocks everyone. Clara sat at her kitchen table, heart pounding, the newspaper spread out in front of her like a grotesque tapestry of fate. The headline was blaring, "Rich woman leaves everything to poor teacher, but what she finds in will shocks everyone." It felt surreal, like she was reading someone else's story. Helen Kingsley, the town's beloved billionaire philanthropist, had passed away unexpectedly, leaving behind a legacy that seemed unshakable. But in a twist no one saw coming, Clara, a simple public school teacher, was named the sole heir to an unimaginable fortune. She couldn't breathe. All around her, the air felt electric with gossip and speculation. She could hear the whispers of neighbors, the lingering disbelief on the lips of her students, and the skepticism from the local news crew that had begun converging on her quiet little home. Clara had always dreamed of making a difference, but never like this. Suddenly, she was the center of attention, an accidental celebrity in a town that thrived on small-town drama. As the shockwaves of this news spread, Clara held the meticulously wrapped diary that Helen had entrusted her with. It perfectly contrasted her physically demanding, chalk-smudged life, a leather-bound treasure that held secrets more potent than any heartfelt letter. With trembling hands, she opened it, the musty smell of old paper filling her senses, bringing with it a weight of history she never knew existed. Each page revealed a woman torn between duty and desire. There were stories of unfulfilled dreams, betrayals by those she trusted the most, and a forbidden love shrouded in secrecy. Clara's heart raced as she read Helen's words, recognizing the frailty beneath her robust public persona. There, among the heartfelt confessions, was a scandal that could unravel the very fabric of what Clara thought she knew about her mentor. The diary hinted at a hidden relationship with a man Clara had never known, a shadow that loomed ominously over Helen's past. Neglected by the headlines that painted her as a saint, and as the revelations spiraled deeper, Clara felt exposed, as if Helen's buried truths were creeping into her own life, forcing her to confront her insecurities about worthiness. But the stakes were higher than her personal awakening. Helen's relatives were already clawing their way into the spotlight, deeply dissatisfied with what they saw as a displacement of their inheritance. They were sharks, circling, their eyes filled with greed. Clara's newfound wealth was a target, and the pressure to prove herself worthy weighed heavily on her, like a stone in her stomach. Just as she thought she was starting to piece together the complexities of Helen's life and the responsibilities before her, the diary revealed its final shocking twist, one that would not only alter her own future, but ripple across the community, igniting a firestorm of controversy. The town, once so peaceful, was on the brink of upheaval. With each word she read, Clara felt like the ground beneath her feet was giving way. Could the truth, hidden away for so long, redefine not only her life, but everyone connected to Helen? She had to know more, but at what cost? Hey, antes de continuarmos com essa história incrível, preciso te fazer um alerta importante. Muitos inscritos têm relatado que o YouTube removeu suas inscrições sem aviso. Dá só uma conferida rápida no botão vermelho aí embaixo para garantir que você ainda está inscrito no canal. Não quero que você perca nenhum conteúdo exclusivo que vem por aí. E já que você está aí, deixa aquele like poderoso que me ajuda muito com o algoritmo. Ah, e me conta nos comentários de qual cidade você está assistindo. Adoro conhecer cada pessoa incrível que faz parte dessa comunidade. Sua participação faz toda a diferença. Vamos interagir. Clara held her breath, the weight of Helen's diary pressing into her palms like a stone. The words on the page felt heavy, with the burden of a past that was more twisted than she had imagined. The revelations about Helen's life blurred the lines between admiration and pity. Each entry pulled Clara deeper into a world fraught with secrecy and scandal. But just as she felt ready to confront the truth, a sudden knock at the door startled her, breaking the spell. "Clara, it's me, Mike," her neighbor called, his voice gruff yet familiar. She almost didn't answer. The diary lay open before her, filled with tales that could change everything. But the urgency in his voice pulled her from the depths of Helen's secrets. "Just a minute," she managed, taking one last glance at the page. For a heartbeat, she felt as if she were standing on a precipice. She closed the diary and headed to the door, but as she swung it open, a wave of chaos flooded in. Mike stood there, his face pale. "Clara, you need to see this." He thrust his phone into her hands, and her heart sank when she saw the headline pop up on the screen. "Mysterious woman found dead. Possible connection to Helen Kingsley's will." "What?" Clara's voice came out in a strangled gasp. The knots in her stomach tightened. "Who? What happened?" "Some woman named Leela. Apparently, a close friend of Helen, or maybe more," Mike explained, his brow furrowing in concern. "They found her in her apartment, and the police think it's suspicious. They're saying it might have something to do with Helen's will." As the implications of his words sank in, Clara felt the ground beneath her tremble. "What are you saying, Mike?" "There's talk in town, Clara. This could change everything. If she had secrets of her own. Oh God, what if there's something in the diary that puts you in danger?" Fear twisted inside her, pooling in the pit of her stomach. Clara's world had suddenly narrowed into a terrifying tunnel of possibilities. Helen's carefully curated image of charity and compassion had now cracked open, revealing a dark underbelly that threatened to engulf her. Did Helen leave her everything to keep her safe, or to pass on the burden of something sinister? Just then, her phone buzzed on the table, the screen lighting up with a message. It was from an unknown number, but marked with urgency. "Clara, you don't know me, but Helen had a plan. You need to open her secrets before it's too late." Mike leaned closer, eyes wide. "You can't ignore this. You must find out the truth before someone comes after you." Suddenly, the doorbell rang again, more insistent this time. Clara's heart raced. She felt like a deer caught in headlights. Who was at the door now? Before she could decide whether to answer or run, she exchanged looks with Mike, a silent agreement passing between them. "Stay behind me," he urged, turning to the door. Clara nodded, dread washing over her. As Mike opened the door slightly, a shadow loomed just outside, a figure wrapped in a long trench coat, face obscured by a wide-brimmed hat. The world outside felt wrong, tinted with an ominous air. "Clara Palmer?" came a cold voice, sharp enough to slice through the tension in the air. Are you?" she stammered, fear lacing her words. "We need to talk about Helen Kingsley." The ground shifted again beneath her, and Clara knew, in that moment, that nothing would ever be the same. Secrets and lies were swirling around her, threatening to pull her under. But the time for choosing a path was quickly running out. What secrets lay hidden behind that door? Who was this stranger? Was she ready to face the truth, whatever it might be? The diary's ominous pages echoed in her mind as she realized that the real story was just beginning, and the path ahead was darker than she ever anticipated. Clara held her breath, The weight of Helen's diary, pressing into her palms like a stone. The words on the page felt heavy, with the burden of a past that was more twisted than she had imagined. The revelations about Helen's life blurred the lines between admiration and pity. Each entry pulled Clara deeper into a world fraught with secrecy and scandal. But just as she felt ready to confront the truth, a sudden knock at the door startled her, breaking the spell. "Clara, it's me, Mike," her neighbor called, his voice gruff, yet familiar. She almost didn't answer. The diary lay open before her, filled with tales that could change everything. But the urgency in his voice pulled her from the depths of Helen's secrets. "Just a minute," she managed, taking one last glance at the page. For a heartbeat, she felt as if she were standing on a precipice. She closed the diary and headed to the door, but as she swung it open, a wave of chaos flooded in. Mike stood there, his face pale. "Clara, you need to see this." He thrust his phone into her hands, and her heart sank when she saw the headline pop up on the screen. "Mysterious woman found dead. Possible connection to Helen Kingsley's will." "What?" Clara's voice came out in a strangled gasp. The knots in her stomach tightened. "Who? What happened?" "Some woman named Lila, apparently a close friend of Helen, or maybe more," Mike explained, his brow furrowing in concern. "They found her in her apartment, and the police think it's suspicious. They're saying it might have something to do with Helen's will." As the implications of his words sank in, Clara felt the ground beneath her tremble. "What are you saying, Mike?" "There's talk in town, Clara. This could change everything. If she had secrets of her own? Oh, God, what if there's something in the diary that puts you in danger?" Fear twisted inside her, pooling in the pit of her stomach. Clara's world had suddenly narrowed into a terrifying tunnel of possibilities. Helen's carefully curated image of charity and compassion had now cracked open, revealing a dark underbelly that threatened to engulf her. Did Helen leave her everything to keep her safe, or to pass on the burden of something sinister? Just then, her phone buzzed on the table, the screen lighting up with a message. It was from an unknown number, but marked with urgency. "Clara, you don't know me, but Helen had a plan. You need to open her secrets before it's too late." Mike leaned closer, eyes wide. "You can't ignore this. You must find out the truth before someone comes after you." Suddenly, the doorbell rang again, more insistent this time. Clara's heart raced. She felt like a deer caught in headlights. Who was at the door now? Before she could decide whether to answer or run, she exchanged looks with Mike, a silent agreement passing between them. "Stay behind me," he urged, turning to the door. Clara nodded, dread washing over her. As Mike opened the door slightly, a shadow loomed just outside, a figure wrapped in a long trench coat. Face obscured by a wide-brimmed hat. The world outside felt wrong, tinted with an ominous air. "Clara Palmer," came a cold voice, sharp enough to slice through the tension in the air. "Are you—" she stammered, fear lacing her words. "We need to talk about Helen Kingsley." Before Clara could respond, the door swung fully open, revealing a flash of badge clipped to the man's coat. "FBI, we're investigating Helen's estate. You might be in danger." Panic erupted in Clara's chest. "Danger? Me? What are you talking about? Lila wasn't just a friend. We believe she was involved in some illegal activities with Helen. You need to know that you're connected now." "What? How?" "Your name is tied to her records. As the sole heir, you hold keys to a much bigger situation than you realize." Shock washed over her, and for a moment she felt weightless. I don't understand. What kind of activities? Money laundering, Clara. There are assets linked to her estate that don't add up. The agent's eyes pierced through her. And that diary? It's not just a collection of musings. It may contain vital information. As of now, it's critical you don't open that diary any further. Don't let anyone see it. For a moment, Clara was frozen, grappling with the whirlwind of information. Why had Helen left everything to her? Did she know about these secrets? Was she dragged into something deeper than she could imagine? Just then, her phone buzzed again. Another message. Her heart raced as she glanced down. I know what's in that diary. Meet me tonight. It's urgent. There was no name, just a cryptic tone that made a chill run down her spine. Clara, you can't go alone, Mike said, worry bubbling in his voice. I can't just... Your name is on the line. Your life is in jeopardy, he shot back, desperation spilling over. Clara's mind spun. A decision had to be made, but each option felt like stepping into a trap. Was she ready to unravel this mess? Or was it better to hide, to stuff the diary away and hope for the best? The stranger's eyes bore into her as the world outside felt increasingly hostile. Whatever she chose, she knew one thing. The truths of the past were clawing their way back into her life, and all the answers led down a path she might not survive. Clara felt like her world was spiraling out of control. The weight of the FBI agent's words pressed down on her, stealing her breath. Money laundering? My name is tied to this? Everything she thought she knew was crumbling. Panic electrified the air, and she could see Mike's face mirrored her fear, his brows knitted in concern. Clara, listen, the agent urged, stepping closer, eyes darting around, as if expecting shadows to leap from the corners. You're in danger. Whatever Helen was involved in, it's more than a simple fortune. You need to take this seriously. She stared at him, her heart pounding. I can't deal with this. I just wanted to honor her legacy. Her voice trailed off, the bitterness of betrayal clasping her heart. Right now, you need to focus on your safety and get to the bottom of what's really happening. The agent paused, glancing at the door as if something loomed behind it. I need to... Before he could finish, a loud crash echoed from the back of her house, shattering the moment. Her pulse raced. It felt like the world had shifted around her. What was that? She gasped, instinctively stepping back, her body tensing in anticipation. Stay here, Mike yelled, rushing past her toward the kitchen. Clara's instincts screamed to follow him, but she hesitated, caught between terror and the urgency pressing down on her. Just keep the door closed, the agent shouted, his hand moving to his waistband where a badge was clipped, as if he was readying himself for a confrontation. Clara's heart drummed louder now as Mike's voice split the air. Clara, get back, now! Dwelling in a haze of confusion, she backed away from the door. She could hear the commotion intensifying in the kitchen, the sound of metallic clanging mixed with gruff voices. She felt paralyzed, torn between protecting her sanctuary and discovering what was unraveling just a few feet away. Then, in an explosive moment that felt surreal, Mike burst back into the room, his face wide with shock. They're here! Clara, I think they're trying to take... Suddenly, the door slammed open, and 3 masked figures surged into the house. Clara's eyes widened as a rush of adrenaline shot through her. The world surged in slow motion, her body instinctively taking a step back, seeking escape. Get down! The agent barked, shoving Clara aside as the intruders stormed in, waving guns. Fear gripped her, pinning her to the floor, her knees colliding with the ground. "Where is it?" demanded the tallest intruder, his voice booming, full of urgency and aggression. Clara's heart raced as she realized they weren't here just for Helen's fortune. They were after something more dangerous. But what? In the chaos, she caught a glimpse of Mike and the agent struggling against the intruders, their shouts blending into a cacophony of confusion. Then, amidst the flurry, her phone buzzed again, the screen lighting up with another message. "Clara, it's all connected. You need to trust me. Meet me at the old barn, tonight." "What? Who is this?" she murmured, her voice barely a whisper, the chaos around her drowning her thoughts. In the split seconds that followed, something clicked in her mind. The urgency of the message, interlaced with the agent's earlier warnings, felt like a thread unraveling a deeper secret. Could there be more to Helen's legacy, more hidden beneath the truth that threatened to explode? But there was no time to think. One of the masked figures had broken away, heading directly toward her as if sensing her fear. Mike shouted for her. "Run, Clara! Now!" She bolted for the front door, the agent's and Mike's voices swirling behind her like debris in a storm. But as she made it to the threshold, a gunshot rang out, and the world exploded in chaos. "Clara!" Mike yelled, the agent's voice laced with desperation. But time felt suspended. A single choice echoed in her mind. The barn. The message. What was waiting for her there? Without looking back, Clara sprinted into the night, the darkness swallowing her whole as the weight of Helen's secrets and danger closed in around her. As she dashed toward what could be a refuge or a trap, Clara felt one thing above all. She was on the edge of a truth darker than she could have ever imagined. Clara sprinted into the night, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. The chill of the evening air bit at her skin, but she couldn't feel it. Adrenaline washed over her as the sounds of chaos faded behind her. The barn loomed ahead, a dark silhouette against the starry sky, and she felt drawn to it, as if the secrets within were calling her name. But could that be the refuge she desperately needed, or was it a trap? With every hurried step, fear mixed with determination. She glanced over her shoulder, half expecting to see the masked intruders chasing right behind her. What if they followed? What if they were already there? Thoughts spiraled wildly in her mind. She was in grave danger, and yet the urgency tugged at her. This message was important. Someone knew something about Helen, about the diary. As she reached the barn door, the wooden structure creaked ominously. Taking a deep breath, Clara pushed it open, the scent of hay and old wood greeting her. She peered inside, her breath hitching at the sight. The interior was dimly lit, and shadows danced across the walls, creating a disorienting effect. "Hello?" she called softly, her voice echoing against the walls. No answer came, just the rustling of something unseen. A flash of movement caught her eye, and she tensed, heart racing again. "Is someone there?" Then, out of the darkness stepped a figure she never expected to see. Clara! It was Lila, the woman whose death had sent shockwaves through the town days ago. But wasn't she supposed to be? Clara's mind fumbled to connect the dots, confusion clouding her thoughts. "What? You're not... How are you alive?" Clara stammered, disbelief flooding her. The woman looked different, more haggard, as if she had been living in secret. "Clara, listen to me. There's no time. Helen's will, it's a setup. You've been drawn into something much bigger." Leela's eyes were wild, desperation etched across her face. "She left the diary for you to find the truth, but there are people who will kill for it." Clara's mind reeled. What do you mean? Why would Helen do that? Why would she put me in danger? Because she knew. Leela stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. Helen was involved in something dangerous, something that put her life in jeopardy. But she also had a plan to take down the very people who are after you now. We have to move quickly, before they realize you're here. The pieces began to come together in Clara's mind, swirling like a storm. But you died. How are you here? She demanded, still grappling with this revelation. Lila's expression shifted, a sadness washing over her features. Because I was supposed to die. Helen staged it to protect me. It was the only way to get the information to you without putting you in more danger. She was trying to shield both of us. Stunned, Clara stepped back, the reality of Lila's words crashing over her. So, you and Helen were a lot more than just friends, Lila admitted, her voice heavy with regret. It was supposed to remain a secret. She was involved with me, Clara, one of many secrets in that diary. There's something in it that can protect you, but you have to believe what I'm saying. They're coming for us both. Suddenly, the barn door slammed shut, drowning them in darkness. Clara's pulse quickened as she strained to hear footsteps on the wooden floor, approaching fast. The panic surged again. There was no escape. "Quick, we have to hide," Clara urged. But as she turned, she realized that she couldn't trust Leela entirely. Helen had always been her mentor, her guiding light, but now shadows lurked everywhere. Out of nowhere, voices erupted outside. "We know you're in there. There's nowhere to run." The intruders' voices sent chills down Clara's spine. "Clara," Leela's voice broke, eyes wide with fear. "If they find us, everything will be lost. You need to trust me now." Heart racing, Clara faced the choice before her. Could she trust Leela? Could she embrace the truth that Helen had attempted to protect her from? Just then, the barn door burst open, a flood of cold air crashing in. Clara braced herself as the figures stepped inside, shadows larger than life. The truth was coming, along with something darker than she ever could have imagined. Would she take the leap into the unknown, or would she be swallowed by the very darkness Helen had sought to escape? As her thoughts spiraled, one question consumed her. What was the true cost of safety? Clara's heart raced as the barn door swung open, revealing the figures who had come to corner her. The air inside was thick with tension, her breath catching as she recognized the tall man from the dark, masked intrusion. His eyes burning with intensity. Behind him loomed two others, equally menacing, armed and ready. "Tell us where it is." The leader's voice resonated like a gunshot, cutting through the fear that gripped Clara's chest. "Leela," she whispered frantically, her eyes darting between the woman she thought she knew and the trespassers. Anxiety prickled at her skin. "What do I do?" "Stay behind me." Leela stepped forward, her body shielding Clara. "I'll handle this." "Handle this?" Clara exclaimed, disbelief surging through her. She didn't know if she should feel safe or terrified. "You're in. This too." "Enough!" the leader barked, stepping forward. "We're not here to play games." But just then, with surprising speed, Leela lunged towards the intruder, and in an instant, the air erupted. A scuffle ensued, adrenaline flooding the space as fists flew. Clara's mind spun as her worst nightmares unfolded. She had barely grasped the danger she was in. Now, she was frozen between loyalty and fear. Just as Leela seemed to gain the upper hand, a sharp crack echoed, stunning everyone into silence. Clara's breath hitched as She realized Leela had been hit. Her body crumpled to the ground, like a discarded doll. "No!" Clara screamed, the world blurring around her. She rushed to Leela's side, her hands trembling, her gaze frantic. "What did you do?" "Get her out," Leela gasped, pain etched across her face. "Clara, you have to go. Trust me." But Clara felt a pull, an undeniable bond forged from shared secrets. "I can't leave you." Tears streamed down her cheeks, blending with the chaos of uncertainty. The intruder laughed, a menacing sound, eyes glinting with malice. "You still don't get it, do you? You're the only one who can end this." Clara felt a sinking sensation. "End what? What do you mean?" Then it hit her. The connection seemed clearer, like a light turning on in utter darkness. Lila shared more than just a bond with Helen. She was the other half of the secrets that wrapped around Helen's life like a vice. "You knew," she accused, turning to Lila, disbelief painting her expression. "You knew everything." Lila's eyes softened, momentarily, betraying the pain that consumed her. "I thought I could protect you both. I had no choice." Suddenly, the flashlight from the leader illuminated a scrap of paper sticking out from Lila's jacket. Clara's heart seized. It was the missing piece, the last entry from Helen's diary she hadn't read yet, the key to the very heart of the chaos that stemmed from Helen's legacy. "Bring me that!" the leader shouted, and suddenly Mike surged forward, his instincts kicking in. "No!" Clara cried out, but he was faster, snatching the paper from Leela's jacket. As Mike unfolded it, something changed in the air. The three intruders took a step back, their faces tightening in shock. "No, it can't be," one muttered. "What the hell is on this piece of paper?" Clara demanded, the tension so thick it stung her heart. For a fleeting moment, time stood still. Mike's face shifted from confusion to realization. "Clara, I think this could incriminate everyone." "Yes, it's all connected," Leela confirmed breathlessly, her voice barely above a whisper. Helen wanted to reveal everything before it was too late. Then, Clara saw the change in Mike. The terrified look in his eyes began to morph into something sinister. "Wait, Mike, what do you know?" With a sinister smirk, Mike turned slowly, eyes glinting with something dark. "You really thought I was just your neighbor?" he sneered. "You have no idea how deep this goes." Clara's gut dropped. "What are you saying?" The world began to fall apart around her, panic swelling. Everything she thought was safe was now a mirage, and with that, in an instant, the door burst open again and chaos erupted anew. Shadows poured in, and Clara realized they weren't just surrounded, they were outnumbered. But more than that, betrayal dripped from every word her so-called friend had spoken. What lay ahead was a tangled web of deception that Clara hadn't fathomed. As the storm of figures closed in, one terrifying thought crystallized in her mind. Sometimes, the monsters hiding in plain sight are the ones you trust the most. What secret was Mike hiding? And could she ever truly trust anyone again? Clara's heart raced as chaos erupted around her. The masked intruders loomed closer, their intentions dark and menacing. Panic surged through her veins, and she felt that all hope was slipping away. But in that moment of dread, something in her shifted. She realized she couldn't let fear dictate her choices anymore. "Get down!" she yelled, pushing Lila away from the imminent danger. Even as she backed up, her eyes were drawn to Mike, who had revealed a side of himself she never suspected. The betrayal ran deeper than she thought. He had used her, and now he was tangled in something sinister, far beyond her comprehension. "Clara!" Mike shouted, eyes wild. "Don't be foolish. This isn't worth it." But the way he said it told her all she needed to know. It was more than just a warning. It was a threat. "Enough," the leader of the intruders barked. "We're not here to chat. Where's the diary?" Clara clenched her fists, adrenaline pumping. "You think I'm just going to hand it over?" she shot back, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "Your choice," the leader smirked, and she felt the world coiling tighter around her. Suddenly, Leela groaned, drawing Clara's attention. "You have to trust me, Clara," Leela gasped, even as she stumbled to her feet. "We can't let them win." Then, in the midst of the chaos, Clara's phone buzzed again. She glanced down, momentarily distracted. What? It was a message from an unknown number, but this one was different. "Urgent. The truth will set. You free. Find the hidden safe, or you won't last long." "Clara, are you listening?" Lila's voice cut through her confusion. "We have to work together. The diary contains everything. They need it to keep the truth buried." Clara steadied herself, locking eyes with Lila. The gravity of their situation hung heavy in the air. "What if you're lying?" She voiced her doubts, the weight of distrust anchoring her thoughts. "Then you'll never find out what Helen truly wanted," Lila insisted. The determination in her voice reached Clara, igniting. A flicker of trust. If they were going to get through this, they'd need to rely on each other. As the intruders advanced, Clara made her move. "You want the diary? You'll have to fight us for it," she declared, surprising even herself. In a flash, chaos erupted anew. Leela tackled one intruder while Clara rushed another, fueled by a surge of adrenaline. Their actions blurred into a whirlwind of fists and screams. Danger was everywhere, but so was resolve. They were viscerally united against a threat. Moments later, the barn door swung open again. This time, the FBI agent burst in, followed by reinforcements. "On the ground!" he bellowed, gun drawn, an authoritative presence in the midst of the chaos. Clara felt a rush of hope swelling in her chest. The intruders, caught off guard, faltered. In that brief chaos, Leela whispered urgently to Clara, "The safe, the one I told you about, is behind the hay bales." "Go," Clara urged her, then turned to face the agents. "We need to secure the perimeter. They're after me." And now, Leela too, the intruders, realizing they were outmatched, began to retreat, but not before Clara caught a glimpse of Mike, eyes narrowing as he darted to escape. In that fleeting moment, anger spiraled through her. He had manipulated everything. "Not so fast," she cried, lunging forward. The agent and his team subdued Mike before he could slip away, handcuffing him with swift efficiency. Minutes later, as the dust settled, Clara stood amidst the aftermath, breathing heavily. "Is it over?" she panted, looking at the agent. "For now," he replied, but she knew this was just the beginning. Helen's secrets were only partially unearthed, and what lay in the safe remained a mystery. Clara glanced at Lila, who seemed fragile yet defiant. "We'll uncover the rest of this together," Clara vowed, feeling a warmth of camaraderie blooming despite the trauma. As they faced the uncertain future, Clara felt a spark of determination. She might have been thrust into this chaotic web of secrets, but she wouldn't step back. The fight for the truth was just starting. And as the story reached a pause, imagine the revelations yet to come. Imagine what lies ahead for Clara and Lila. But you can't miss out. You need to subscribe to the channel now, or you'll miss the next thrilling chapter. Smash that like button, feed the algorithm, and flood the comments with your thoughts and theories. Share this story with at least 5 friends who need to join in on this adventure. Act now, because the real story, The secrets yet to be uncovered are just getting started.